In this session, we will discuss what is the Lambda function in Java and what are the functional interfaces in Java. So we will discuss the java.util.function package. So there are 43 functional interfaces in the java.util.function package. We will discuss each and every interface in detail in all these sessions. So now we will discuss the Lambda in Java. So what is Lambda in Java? Lambda is the anonymous function in Java, or we can say replacement of the anonymous class. Lambda came in Java 8 and that is available for the updated version of the Java. And in Java we can use only functional interfaces too, and we can say only functional interfaces can be converted into the Lambda function. And this is the syntax. So first bracket is the input bracket where we can pass as a input as a parameter, and then that is a arrow, and that is the implementation of the interface or the implementation of the lambda. Now why lambda? So lambda help us for the better code readability. So that help us for write a code in a better readability form. Second is the, like, we need to define only behavior. So when we are implementing the interface and then we are writing multiple redundant line of code, that we can avoid with the help of lambda. Now the next is the functional coding style. So with the lambda we can, or lambda help us to achieve the functional coding style in our coding. So first discuss how were we implementing the interface before the lambda. So first is the implementing the interface. So let's suppose there is runnable interface, and for that I am creating one class, my executor, that is implementing the runnable, and the run method is the overridden method of this interface. I am implementing the runnable here. I'm just printing here. So to call this runnable, I have to create the object of this class, my executor, and then I need to call the run method on this object. Second way is the anonymous class. So what I can do, I can pass the implementation directly to the runnable reference. So here I'm just passing the implementation to the runnable, and we can call the run method on this reference. So behind the scene, what Java is doing, so Java is creating the anonymous class and creating the object, and that object passing to this runnable reference. Now when the Java 8 came, and when we can say lambda came, now how we can implement lambda? So if we observe, we are only implementing this line, or we are only interested in this line. Rest of code lines are redundant. So in this case we have created one class and we have implemented the run method and we have to call the object. Same thing is happening in the anonymous class. We are only interested in this line. So that's why, or that's why we can use lambda only to implement the behavioral code implementation. So for lambda, what we need to do, we need to specify the interface and interface reference equal to, and then the first bracket is the input bracket where we can pass the input, then arrow, and then the implementation. That's it. And to call this lambda, we can call again the run method for this reference runnable, and that will run this implementation. So if we have a multiple statement, then we need to use this braces. So rest of the execution is same. We need to call the run method on this reference. Now the next is the, if some interfaces methods are, or some interfaces default methods are returning something. So for that, let's suppose callable, and callable is basically having call method that is returning v, and we need to specify while implementation. So I have implemented the callable as an integer type. So here what I am doing. So first is the input bracket, because callable is not taking any input. So our first bracket is empty, and then arrow, and then the integer. And that when we call this callable.call, we can get a result, or we can get a 5 as an integer. If we have a multiple statements, then we need to specify the braces and the return type. So here I am printing the just random words, and then we are returning the 5 here. And to call this, we need to call this method dot call. So if we open this, we can see the callable is the functional interface annotation is there. And if we open the runnable, so functional interface interface annotation is there. Now most of the Java interfaces are the functional interfaces. Now what is functional interface? Functional interfaces are the those interfaces that exactly contain one abstract method. If we see here, only there is one run abstract method. In the callable there is only one call abstract method. So all interfaces that is containing exactly one abstract method, all are the functional interfaces. No need to specify this annotation. Let's run this. You can see we are getting the same output from the implementing the interface. We are getting runnable execute, then we are getting the runnable execute, and from the lambda again we are getting the runnable executed, and we are again getting the same uh, output here. So here we are getting lambda with curly, so that is this lambda is curly is printing here lambda with curly, and this runnable is executed. So first we are getting this, then we are getting this, and there lambda with return, here we are getting the print statement here. Let's understand the lambda with own interface. So I have created my custom interface, that is work. So I just annotate for the example only, the I have annotated with the functional interface. So I have created one execute abstract method. That method is taking one input parameter and returning the int. So the input parameter is a type of string. So again I have implemented the first this work interface with the class implementation class. So I have created the software class that is implementing the work, and here I have implemented the execute. I am just returning 5 only. So to call this software, or we need to create the object of software, and to call this software we need to call this method execute, and execute I'm passing the string as an input, I'm getting int as a output. So I am printing here. Second way is the anonymous class. So I have passed the implementation here and to this reference, and I'm calling the execute on this reference with this input, and here we are getting the output. I'm printing this output. Now the next is the lambda. So for lambda we already discussed the first bracket is the input bracket, because this execute method is taking the string type of input. So I have specified here string task name, then arrow, and then we are returning 5 only, and we are using only one statement. So no need to specify any bracket or any return keyword. I'm just returning 5, and to call this we can call work.execute, and with this input as a string, and this will give us the output as a int. So this is the lambda with curly. So where if we have a multiple statement, we have to specify the curly braces and the return keyword. So let's run this. Yeah, all are giving the same output 555.